my legacy. And so it goes. More coming up in a moment here from San Salvador.
Very interesting stuff. Bill, thank you. And we will see you again shortly. Let's bring in Chris Wallace, anchor of Fox News Sunday. Chris, good morning to you. I'm sure you've been watching this interview throughout the morning. What's your takeaway so far?
Well, you know, as somebody who does interviews for a living, when you watch somebody else do interviews, you always say, well, gee, I would have asked, or what about? I think that Brother Hemmer did a hell of a job and squeezed the sponge dry, getting everything that Bill Barr was prepared to say. And what really comes across to me, most of all, is that for 2 years, Donald Trump sat there and said, I don't have an attorney general. I don't have somebody out there looking for and protecting my interests. He clearly has that now with Bill Barr. Not saying that Barr isn't right in everything he says, but he clearly is protecting this president and advocating his point of view on a lot of these issues. And I suspect that as President Trump, who probably has watched some of this interview himself, is saying finally, no Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr instead.
I want to watch this clip with you, Chris, on Bill Barr answering the question about accusations that he lied and the situation with Charlie Crist and Chris Van Hollen. Here's the Attorney General.
When they questioned your testimony with Charlie Crist in Florida and Chris Van Hollen from Maryland, do you believe you were being upfront in those exchanges?
They not only were upfront, but they were completely accurate.
Van Hollen, did Bob Mueller support your conclusion? And you say, I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusion.
That question that Van Hollen asked me was about my conclusions, along with Rod Rosenstein, that there had been no obstruction. And he was asking whether Bob Mueller agreed with those conclusions, and I don't know it.
So in your view, there was no contradiction?
Well, there are two separate sets of, one was Bob Mueller's conclusion, one was my conclusion.
Want to get your response to that exchange, Chris?
Well, you know, that's why we have lawyers, because they can sit there and parse language and cut it up into fine pieces. I think what critics would say is you were being asked, both in the House by Charlie Crist, in the Senate by Chris Van Hollen, about whether you knew whether the Mueller team was satisfied with what you said. He took a very lawyerly and very precise approach. It was only afterwards that we found out that, in fact, Mueller had called him the day after he issued his conclusions and said that he wasn't happy with it. So, look, I'm not a lawyer. Bill Barr's a very accomplished lawyer. He can certainly make a case. I think there are other lawyers who would say, whether he lied or not, that he certainly was not forthcoming to either Crist or Van Hollen when he answered their questions about what he knew about Mueller's opinion.
All right, we will have more on that interview coming up in a moment. I want to ask you about 2020.